assume I was having an interview with you right now. How do you think you would perform in the current state of mind that you are in the current setup that you are in the current state of just the feeling of preparedness? If this was an interview session, how would you feel? How do you think you would perform? Stephanie, to be honest, I don't think I'd pass. Okay, thank you so much for your answer. Fairly, okay, average, not so well. Out of 10, I will get a 3. Why so low? Anxious, still I'll ace it. Yes, that's the spirit. Not good. Yes. So basically, all those feelings that you're feeling and just your perception of how you'll perform, that is why we're having the session today. Coincidentally, earlier today, I welcomed a new member to my team. And when they were being taken around, it reached that they were coming to my office for just the usual welcoming introduction because I'm the HR. And when we were left, the two of us, that lady looked at me in the eyes and told me, I did not know that I will make it. Based on the interviews, I actually feel like it's a dream I am here today. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we have this session today, whereby we have none other than the person who makes us employable, the guru, the CV kings himself, JCVs. So JCVs is a well-known person in our HR circles, a well-known person in the career consultancy and mentorship sessions, circles. And I'll just tell you a little bit about him. So Jay is not all about CVs. He might have been the CEO and the lead consultant at JCVs, but he's actually a HR consultant and an international one for that matter. So he leverages the international HR expertise and resume writing skills to empower job seekers worldwide. So he holds a Bachelor of Commerce in HR from KU and a certificate in International and Strategic Human Resource Management from Allison. He has a solid academic foundation and a global perspective on the HR fields. He specializes in crafting compelling resumes that showcase individuals' qualifications and experiences to stand out in today's competitive job market. By employing a strategic approach and staying up to date with industry-specific keywords and requirements, he consistently delivers resumes that maximizes their clients' chances of securing interviews and landing their desired job. So he's not all about CVs. He can actually coach you for interview skills and also just help you to strategize your careers. He is dedicated to providing quality and professional services that reflect the unique qualities and aspirations of each client. His goal is to help job seekers achieve their career goals and thrive in today's global job market. Mkubwa, JCVs, karibu sana to the session. And maybe as you kick off, let me ask you, is a good CV enough to land you that dream job?
Yes, a good CV is not enough to land you that job. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I think the introduction part and did me justice. I'll not add or remove anything. I'm so happy to be here. So a good CV will get you an interview invite, but it will not land you the job. Thank you so much, Irene. So I'll be talking about interview tips. I know this is a hot topic. It's a topic where each and everyone, even the seniors in the industry, are always afraid of. So when you talk about interviews, personally, I was a victim. I wouldn't want to sit the other side. I will always want to interview, but being interviewed is something that I didn't like at all. So through the field, I've been able to gather so much information in terms of interviewing, what is needed. And so through that, I've been able to meet several candidates and I've been able to guide them. Sometimes unaangalia what the candidate tells you and you're like, you really need to do better. Some are fidgeting. So I'll be taking you through what needs to be done before the interview, what needs to be done after the interview, and how you should behave after the interview. So I'll be sharing my screen. And I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, yes.
So now, how to ace your next interview. That is now the topic of today's topic. And we need to understand that the job interview is often the first interaction with that potential employer. And being the first interaction, then how you present yourself is very key because it sets up the tone for your potential employer's perception of you. And we always say that the first impression lasts. So make that positive impression in the first instance. So what happens is that when you apply for a job, I always advise that the first time you see the job, when you see the job immediately, you need to make that application. We have several job seekers that are also vying for the same positions. So make sure that you apply for the position immediately you see it. I've heard people talk about, let me apply for the job once I get home, and it's 8 in the morning. I don't know how heavy your CV is that you have to get home fast in the evening so that you can make that application. So make sure you apply for the job immediately you see it. Now, what are some of the importances of having a good preparing for an interview before you go for that interview? So number one, important is that it boosts your confidence. Once you prepare for the interview, you have that knowledge on what to expect in an interview, and it helps reduce that anxiety and makes you feel more comfortable and in control. We always say that when going for an interview, you are the person that can determine whether it should be a conversation or an interview. So making it a conversation is upon you as a job seeker. So you should be able to make that interview a conversation. Then the number two aspect is that it demonstrates professionalism. Being well presented shows that you take the opportunity seriously and respect the interviewer's time. So having being prepared is key. Number three, it enhances communication skills. Once you start preparing for the interview, it helps you articulate your thoughts clearly and then avoid unclear responses during the interview. Number three, important is that it increases your knowledge about the company, because before you go for that interview, you have to research about the company. At some point, you'll have to research about some of the things like maybe the profit of the company, some of the leaders of the company, the board. So it increases your knowledge of that company. Then number five, and the last one, is that it improves your chances of success. We've talked about having other people vying for this position. You're not the only person going for this position. I know most of us are very good when it comes to job performance, but we have an issue when it comes to preparing for interviews or presenting ourselves in the interview. Sorry. Then, things to do before you go for that interview. Things to do before you go for the interview. Number one, we need to research about the company. Understand the company culture, understand the company goals and visions, because there are some questions during the interview that you'll have to use the company vision or goals to be able to respond to such questions. Questions talking about how you relate to that company or why you are interested in that company. Align that response to the vision and mission of that company, so that now the potential employer can see that you really resonate with what the company is doing and its mission. Number two aspect is to make sure that you arrive early. Early arrival shows that you have valued the interviewer's time and you are prepared for the interview. It also gives you time to just feel comfortable, time to relax, and be able now to respond well during the interview. The number three aspect is to understand the role. Familiarize yourself with the job requirements and responsibilities. Not the skills and experiences the employer is seeking. Make sure that you align all your responses to the skills that have been aligned in the job description for that position. You match your skills and qualifications that is required. There are some questions that will come directly expecting you to respond to those questions using the skills that have been highlighted and using the qualifications that you have for that position. So preparing specific examples from the past can demonstrate your ability to perform those responsibilities so well. Number 4 is to dress appropriately. Dressing appropriately for an interview is crucial as it reflects your professionalism and respect for the opportunity. Once you get to the organization, there's a company culture, you'll find that people are wearing jeans, people are doing casual, might be from Monday to Friday. That should not affect your first impression. You should always make sure that you dress appropriately in the first day. Pay attention to personal hygiene, have clean nails and neat hair, and avoid overpowering perfumes and colognes so that now you don't affect the interviewers. Then gather necessary materials. I've seen job seekers who come to the office for an interview and then they're asking you if you are able to print for them their documents. That shows lack of preparation, and it might not end well with the potential employer. So make sure that you bring the necessary copies. If they are resume, if there's a CV, if there are certificates, make sure that you do that. Carry a pen and notepad ready for notes and questions, if any, and if they are needed. It's better to have them than not having them at all. So now, what are some of the interviews that we've been able to go through? You know, what we need to understand is that while answering interview questions, you need to understand which category that question falls in. So the first one, and which is the most common in all professions, is the general questions. The general questions are just there to be able to, these are questions that typically used to start the interview and gather basic information about the candidate. So when an interviewer tells you tell us about yourself, that is a general question, and you need to respond. To tell us about yourself, you need to respond to that recruiter based on what they are looking for in that position. Tell us about yourself. You need to tell us about your name. You need to tell us about your academics. You need to tell us about your experience. And when talking about experience, be very intentional on talking about the experience that you've had in relation to the job that you're applying for. Why are you interested in the position? If there's need for growth, I know most of us, we look for jobs, you want to move because of money or finances, but why are you interested in the position? You can't tell the recruiter that you're interested in that job because of the money. Talk about why you want to move, if it's growth that you're looking for, and you can also talk about why you're moving to that organization, because your values might be resonating with the values of that organization. So tell the recruiter about that. What do you think about the company? So you've done enough research about the company. Talk about what the company does. Is the company in the manufacturing sector? What is it manufacturing? What are some of the products that is giving in the market? Is it an NGO? What is the mission of that NGO? Which areas are they covering? So make sure that you have that information at your fingertips, so that once you ask these questions, you can be able to respond to them so well. Number 2 type of the interview question is what you call the technical questions. When talking about the technical questions, we are talking about the job content skills. And talking about jobs content skills, these are tailored towards a specific position. And this one can be pulled directly from the job description. If you are in the HR field, they can tell you to take us through the recruitment process. So you need to highlight every step in the recruitment process one by one, and make sure that you take them up to the last step. If you are in the database industry or the IT industry, can you explain to us how you optimize a database? What programming languages are you proficient in? So talk about a language that you are proficient in and explain how it can be applied. So these are technical questions. They vary from one profession to another. Then you have the number 3 or the C type, which you call the situational questions. Situational questions are questions that present hypothetical situations to understand how the candidate will handle them. When interviewers are asking about situational questions, they're asking about things that they know happen in this position from time to time. So when they are talking about how can you give an example of a time when you showed leadership? This is something that happens. Maybe your boss is someone who travels around. You might need to make a decision while your boss is not around. And now, how can you be able to demonstrate that you showed leadership in a previous role? So be able to use the STAR method, where you talk about the situation, the task that is ahead of you, that you need to, how you need to tackle that, and then the action you take and the result. When using answering the situational questions, make sure that the result is always positive. You must make sure that the result for situational questions is always positive. Then another type of an example of another question can be describe a situation where you had to work under pressure. So make sure that you use the STAR method. While using the STAR method, talk about the situation, task, action, and then the result. Always make sure there's something to notice, that always make sure that the result is always positive. We have the number D, which we call the behavioral questions. These are questions that explore the past behavior in specific situations to predict future behavior. The purpose for this is just to understand how the candidate has handled various scenarios in the past. So how will you handle a conflict between two members? So they are looking about specific skills. Now, in this first question, they are looking about how can you be able to handle conflict, your conflict management skills or problem solving skills. So talk about how you can be able, talk about, give a previous scenario of the same and how you handle that. Then you have the E and the last one, which is it's called the culture fit questions. Now, interviewers are the people that understand the culture in the organization. And because they understand the culture in the organization, they are asking about specific questions based in the culture of that organization and see how you'll be able to answer them. So when they talk about what type of work environment you thrive in, they understand the environment that is in the organization. So they're asking you so that they can be able to understand. As much as you've passed the interview, maybe the first and the second interview, this is the last. In most cases, the culture fit questions are the last questions in an interview, where you've now passed the first interview, the second interview, and maybe now they want to give you this contract. So they'll need to understand what kind of leaders will you like to work under, or what kind of leader are you? So these questions are basically customized to fit the organization's requirements. So make sure that you have done enough research about the organization and you are able to respond to such questions in an interview based on what they are looking for. Then there are several things that you need to observe during the interview. A number one thing you need to do is to smile warmly and maintain eye contact. This shows that you are engaged and interested in the conversation. So I've talked about when you go for an interview, you are the person to determine whether it will be an interview or it will be a conversation. So how you respond and how you maintain eye contact with both interviewers. When one of the interviewers asks a question, you need to respond engaging all interviewers through eye contact. The number two aspect is to listen actively. Pay attention to what the interviewer is saying and ask clarifying questions if need be. Number three is to provide specific examples when responding to questions, especially when you have experience. When you are experienced, you need to give specific examples so that the interviewer can really relate with what you are telling them. So make sure that you give that. Ask thoughtful questions. Once given an opportunity to ask questions, make sure that you demonstrate your genuine interest in the role. Don't ask questions that are self-centered. When I talk about self-centered questions, I'm talking about questions that are only centered to you. You are asking questions about if there are opportunities for you to grow. If you're asking questions about if they can allow you leave work at 5 or at 3 or 4 so that you can go to school. Those are not questions that you need to ask during the interview. These are questions that you need to talk about when signing the contract. Be clear and concise. Avoid rambling or using jargon that the interviewer may not understand. Then ask insightful questions. The insightful questions shows that you are curious and have done enough research for that position, for that interview. Then avoid questions about salary and benefits in the first interview. This can be premature and may give impression that you are more interested in the competition than the job itself. So make sure that you asking questions that are shows your interest are always related to the company. Now, once you've done the interviews, you've done your interview and you need, what do you do after you've done your interview? This one is not done by most of us. Sending a thank you note, email. And you will ask those who have sent a thank you note in the previous interviews they've attended so that we see how many people take this seriously. So these are courteous gestures just to show that your appreciation for the interviews interviewer's time and consideration. So it is a good thing to do. It's a best practice for any job seeker. Reiterate your interest and fit for the role. So when doing a thank you note, you need to tell the interviewer that you can even single out a specific interviewer and give that specific gesture to that person. Thank him for maybe the opportunity or the question that they've asked you. Then highlight your key qualifications and how they align with the job requirements based now on what you are asked during the interview. Then mention something specific from the interview so that they can see that this demonstrates that you are actively listening and you are engaged in that conversations all this time. Now, there are common mistakes that we make during interviews. Number one, arriving late or unprepared. Once you arrive late for an interview, it means that you are not prepared and it will affect your response to the interview questions. If you arrive late and maybe the interviews are waiting for you, you just come in still panting and you expect to perform well, it might not be easy for you. Then showing lack of knowledge about the company or the role. You are asked about what the company does, you are not able to tell the interviewer. That means that you are not ready for that interview. Then speaking negatively about the past employers or experiences. This is something that most job seekers will talk about. They'll badmouth the previous employers or even the supervisors who are the referees for the same people. Then failing to ask thoughtful questions about the company or the position. Some of us end up asking questions about the benefits for that position and what are some of the benefits and if there are opportunities for growth for that position during the first impression, the first interview. Then oversharing personal information that is unrelated to the job. So once the interviewer is asking about, tell us about yourself, they don't want to know if you are the fifth born in a family of 8. They want to know specifically about your academics. They want to know about you and then the position that you've applied for and how you relate to that position. Using vague or cliche responses to interview questions, that's also another mistake. Then poor body language. We avoid eye contact with the interviewers. We feel shy and that also affects how we do this. Then talking too much or dominating the conversation. You need to be precise in your answers and give only responses to questions that you've been asked. Don't set your questions and answer them during the interview. Then for some positions, we've had what you call psychometric tests. And psychometric tests, basically, they are standardized assessments designed to measure the candidate's cognitive abilities, personality traits, and other psychological attributes. So the purpose for this is just to provide the employer with a deep understanding of the candidate's suitability for the role. In cases where you'll find that there are back office positions, when I talk about back office positions, I can mean positions like IT, the positions where you might not face the customers directly. Most companies now are adopting what you call psychometric tests so that they can be able, some of us are not able to express ourselves well during the interview, but you can be able to do the job well. So most companies now are adopting psychometric tests whereby now they'll have to do an average of your score in the psychometric and then give you the position based on now the average score. So we have what you call the aptitude tests. So the aptitude test assesses specific abilities. In most cases, they are numerical, verbal, and logical reasoning abilities. So numerical reasoning involves solving problems with numbers and data interpretation. Verbal reasoning tests understanding and processing written information. Then on logical reasoning, it assesses recognition and abstract thinking. So examples is that one example is solving arithmetic problems. This is most common with the technical roles like data analysis, accountants, then answering questions based on reading passages, then identifying the next shape in a sequence. This is an aptitude test. Now we have the second one is a personality test where it evaluates character traits, behaviors, and answers. The purpose for this is basically to gauge your aspects of personality and how they fit with the job that the job role and the company culture. So this one, you will respond to the questions based on your personality. The company will be looking for a specific personality, and once you respond through, if it's scored maybe out of 100, they'll have a specific score, specific category for each score. So we have the big 5 personality traits, where they test on openness, consciousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Then you have the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which assesses personality types. Example of questions is I enjoy social gatherings, agree, disagree, or strongly agree, strongly disagree. Will have such kind of answers. So once you respond to these questions, there's a specific score, and this score will give a specific category for a personality test that the company is interested in. So number 3 is the situational judgment tests, which measure decision making and problem solving skills in hypothetical scenarios. So the purpose for this is just to assess how you handle work-related situations. They present scenarios with multiple choices, and then you have to choose the responses. For example, is a team member is not contributing to a project. Possible responders talk to them privately, report them to the supervisor, ignore the issue. So those are some of the situational judgment tests. Then we have preparation tips for psychometric tests. Number 1, you need to familiarize yourself, understand the type of tests that you'll be taking based on the position that you've applied for. When you go online, you are able to get examples of tests that are likely to come for that specific position. So research common tests and practice different question types. Number 2 is to practice regularly. Use online sources and practical tests to familiarize yourself with tests and improve your speed and accuracy. We have Test Gorilla, a resource that is online for free. You can create an account and be able to do these tests. Then improve your relevant skills. Enhance your numerical, verbal, and logical reasoning skills through targeted exercise and practices. Then stay calm and focused. I've seen some companies, for example, the UN, where now you have to do the psychometric test. They even have a camera that will be monitoring you doing this, so you can not be able to maybe do research or have someone do this for you. So you have to be able to prepare for this so well. Then manage your time effectively during this psychometric test, because all of them are timed, and you should be able to manage time effectively and be able to answer as many questions as possible. Avoid rushing and getting overwhelmed by staying calm and focused. Now, conclusion is that preparation breeds confidence and sets you apart. So role play interviews with friends or mentors, and use feedback to improve your interview skills. Remember, it's not just about answering questions. It's about showing who you are and why you are the best fit for that position. We always say that the best interviewee gets the job, not the best candidate. In most cases, it happens. The interview process is a journey. Each experience provides valuable lessons and opportunities for growth. We don't say that you failed an interview. We always say that I've learned something new. I always advise job seekers that once you go for an interview, if you go for 5 interviews for the same position and you don't get that position, you are the person who has the problem, not the interviewers. So you need, as a job seeker, you need to have a notebook whereby once you step out of the interview room, you go home, write all the questions that were asked in an interview. For those questions that you are unable to respond to, or you felt that you didn't give enough, research on the same questions so that next time you're going for the interview, because interview questions, especially if you're going for the same position, they'll always be repeated. So make sure that you understand the questions that you failed in the previous interview, and you can be able to improve on that. Then remember that every interview is a chance to learn and improve. So approach each opportunity with enthusiasm and determination. I've seen people talk about when starting, people have talked about they've left interview rooms confused, they've left interview rooms while others are optimistic. But at times you leave the interview room feeling that you've done nothing for that position. So it's wish you the very best of luck in your job search, and that's the end of my presentation. Here are my contacts. If you need to look for me, we are on Maendeleo House. That's where I'm presenting from now. I think, Anne, we have questions. If we do,
Yes.
I'll be willing to respond to them.
Jay, we have questions before I subject my audience to another hot seat round of questions. So the first question is, when you're being asked, why do you want to leave your current job? How do you go about answering that one?
Now, why you are leaving your current job? In most cases, we are leaving the current job because we are looking for opportunities for growth. There are several reasons. So I'll be talking about the reasons. The reasons why you leave the current position. You can leave a position because your position is toxic, but you don't tell the employer that that position is toxic. Number two reason why you can leave your current position is that you can leave your current position because you might have gotten a job that is not in your career. So you're going now to your career. Maybe you're working as a customer service personnel. You've gotten an opportunity as an accountant, and you are an accountant. You can leave your position. So tell the potential employer that I'm leaving this position because I've studied accounting, and I feel that this position will give me an opportunity to grow and enjoy in my field of study. The number three reason you can leave a position is because the employment terms. Maybe the contract was elapsing. So just before the contract elapses, you need to get something to do. So you're leaving the position because your contract is ending in a week's time or a month's time. So make sure that going for an interview, you need to be able to prepare based on your need at such a time. If your need for that position is that maybe in the position that you are in, the contract, the employment terms were different, the employment terms were not favorable. Maybe you are working, most of us work without contracts. I know several people that work without contracts. If you're working without a contract and you feel that maybe this organization structured can give you a contract, it's an opportunity for you to leave the position as well. But when asked during an interview, in most cases, talk about opportunities for growth, and you feel that you've grown as an individual, you've gained skills in the previous organization that you can be able to apply in a different role.
All right, thank you so much for that. And tied to the same question is, and I know you had answered the question for when you're asked, do you have any question for me? And I remember you answered it. Bottom line is always have questions that do not center around you. And I think that's the guidance you gave, Jay, not unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, that is the guidance.
How do you answer the question, why did you change from one job sector to another, like from IT to customer service, when really the reason is that you were looking for a job in your area of expertise?
Now, through my experience as a career coach and a strategist, I've met several people that have, I think over 80% of job seekers, or over 80% of the young people mid-level and entry-level positions, these people are misplaced. Someone is in a different career and they studied a different line. So now there are those options whereby umetoka shule, you get an opportunity, umeitiwa kazi, you start maybe working as a direct representative sales rep in the bank. You've done procurement. By the time now people get comfortable so easily. The bank gives you good money, you making sales, you're getting over 100,000. By the time you realize that you need to go back to procurement, you already have 2-3 years in the banking industry. So you are not sure whether to continue being in the banking industry or to go back to procurement. And the biggest mistake that job seekers make is that we don't upskill. Once you settle in another field, you need to upskill to be able to compete favorably with other candidates in that field. But once we settle, you're working in a bank and you've done procurement. So by the time you are realizing that you are in the wrong career, you only realize this when you've lost your job. You want to apply for other positions in the same area. you find that there's people who are qualified more than you, and they have more skills, and they have upskilled in the same area. So you end up not getting the job. So the only opportunity you have is to go back into our area. And when people going back into our area, is that now we lack that patience. You are earning 100,000, you need to start as an entry level. You know, most jobs in our economy, in our country, they'll start paying you 30,000. So you had set your life at 100,000, but now you need to lower your life at to 30,000. So you end up getting stressed. You end up depression creeps in, and then that is how you have mental health issues. So once you settle in a different career and you really feel that this is now your path, make sure you upskill. But getting back into another field, we join these positions because you need to provide, you need to pay your bills. But as much as you need to pay your bills and as much as you need to earn a living, make sure you don't forget your career. And if you do forget your career, make sure that you becoming more you upskill to be able to fit in that other career.
Wow. Yes. So bottom line is you upskill, you don't remain the same way as you are. Then there's
sure.
this elephant in the room. Before I move to the bigger elephant, so I have gaps in my resume. So how do I go about answering that question?
Now, gaps in the resume is a common illness, especially for those for ladies, because of motherhood and such issues. Now, once you have an interview opportunity, you need to prepare well, as we've said. So gaps can be addressed by just not any employer will want to see that you've been off for 3 years without gaining any extra skill. So based on your career, if you are in the project management field, you've worked, maybe you have a gap of 3 years. So what were you doing during these 3 years? Talk about even volunteering in a children's home and helping train children on entrepreneurship skills. The children, kids in that home on entrepreneurship skills. So talk about something that you are doing, even if it's on a volunteering basis, that help you gain a different skill that can help you in this position. You are on maternity leave. Talk about getting another course on Allison. Online courses, we have Allison with free resources. Talk about getting another course on Allison or Coursera, and then improving the skills, upskilling. We've talked about upskilling. So during these gaps, make sure that there's something that you're doing that will help you upskill. So any employer will be able to see that you've gained a skill that will help you in the position that you're looking for. So when upskilling, we don't just upskill. For example, you are on maternity leave, you're working in the banking sector, make sure that you're upskilling in that line, because that is the line you want to venture into. So always make sure that you upskill in something that you want to venture into. Whether it's providing skills for services for free, you gain the skills, make sure that you do, so that you can be able to do that. And indicate that in your CV. During this period, I was doing volunteer work with this organization.
Okay. So there's also another very interesting question that had just come up from Norbert. Esther, yourself, and sometimes myself, we are involved in just recruiting on behalf of other organizations. And in the initial stages, we do not disclose who our clients are. So how can the candidates be better prepared for those interviews? For instance, how do you even research an anonymous company that these interviewers are on the hunt for candidates?
Thanks for that. Now, what happens is that as a recruiter, I'm in the recruitment space. As a recruiter, what you need to do is that you need to tell the potential candidates that when sending out this advert, our client in the manufacturing industry, in the manufacturing space for ABC. If they are manufacturing plastic products or plastic packaging products, flexible packaging products, tell them that our client is in the plastic packaging industry is doing ABC. So now, when you're doing background check, you are doing based on now the kind of the industry the client is in. So you might not disclose the name, but just that clue. If you're talking about beverage company, a soft drink beverage company, you might think you might relate with Coca-Cola, you might relate with Highlands, Excel Chemicals. So now, when talking about these companies, you are talking about now you're looking at what they do. They're in the FMCG industry, so that now you customize your answers to that industry. As a recruiter, make sure that you highlight the specific area the client ventures in.
Okay, so thank you so much for that. Then allow me to go to the biggest elephant in the room. What is your salary expectation?
Now, salary expectation. Now, I've talked about the reasons you will want to move from one area to another. I've had people that talk about even they are willing to take a lower salary so that they can get back to their career. So now, what has necessitated your movement from organization A to B? Is it because of salary? Is it because of career? Is it because of growth? Is it because of a toxic environment? Is it because of maybe the culture of that organization? They have night shifts and you don't want night shift. Is it because of the culture that they are working on Saturdays and you are an SDA person? You don't want now to have work in such an environment. Now, once you understand the reason why you are moving from this organization A to organization B, why you want to move, you can tailor your questions based on that. But on salary expectations, we always advise that now you have to do research on how such positions are paying in other companies. So there are resources online like we have My Job Mark has this information as well. We have salary surveys. We have the other one, what do you call it? Online as well. So all these resources are giving us an opportunity to giving us a hint on how what to expect in that position. And also another thing that you should always consider is that are you in your right career? And now you consider the benefits that you're getting in organization A. In organization A, I'm earning 100,000. I have medical for my family and myself. I have this allowance, when go for holiday. So look at all those factors before you go for this interview. So once you get to that interview, when you're going for this interview, because maybe in the current organization, you have a very, it's a good environment where you can grow, an environment where you feel that you are enjoying your work. So what can only necessitate your movement from this organization will be something in a range of maybe $500,000. Then I always advise that as a job seeker, you should have a tag on yourself. Based on your skills and experience, you feel that how much are you worth? Are you worth 200,000? Are you worth 300,000? Are you worth 50,000? Are you worth 10,000? So if it's a position where the experience is needed, make sure that you have a tag on yourself. And most of the time you ask job seekers, ukiwashtua kuambia amekwambia 100,000 unamwambia we are not able to provide that. 90% of job seekers watakwambia I'm willing to negotiate. Now this shows that you don't understand even your worth. You should be able to understand your worth. Understanding your worth means that before you go for that interview, while applying for this position, I'm applying for this position because I'm looking at 100,000 and above. So have that tag on yourself, and then also consider your current salary and benefits that you're getting. So that once you move from this organization, you don't have a disadvantage joining the other organization. So you are sure that because I was earning 100,000 or 200,000, I can be able to earn more than that in the next organization. So make sure that you have a tag, you know your worth, and then once you talk about the salary in an interview, make sure that you stand firm on what you are asking for, because you know at the back you are working and you have a salary. If you're not working and you don't have a salary, that's also another issue. So be very away on these options. If you're working or not working, and then what can you do about that?
Okay, so thank you so much. That was well answered. And I think you've asked us the $1 million question. How much are you worth? If I am to say, come, I am offering you, I want to offer you this job, how much are you worth? Have you thought about it? And what are the parameters that are actually advising into that? So I think I have exhausted all the questions. Eunice, your hand is up. So I'll give you 2 seconds to unmute yourself and to ask the question that you have before I move to the next session. Eunice, go ahead. Eunice? Okay. So once you're ready, just chat me privately. I'll be able to sort you out. So let's move to Eunice. You're ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to ask this question. Maybe I have joined the company and I'm maybe 3 or 4 months old there, and I want to change the environment because of toxicity and all that. Then I go to an interview, they're asking me why am I leaving, and I'm 4 or 3 months old. How would I answer that question?
Now, sometimes, we've talked about bad mouthing your previous employer. It's a mistake that you make in the company, in the interview. So whether the employer was an issue, you don't have to tell the potential employer as well that I'm moving because of my current employer. So what happens is that now the reasons that necessitate you're moving, you can talk about issues with the terms. Initially, you agreed maybe on. I've seen this happen. The employers that during an interview you agree, you have a salary discussion, you have a discussion, even when signing the contract, you have a salary discussion. You're going to get 100,000, but once you go signing the contract, you find that they're giving you 30,000. Or maybe 30,000 less to maybe 70. You agreed on 100 and they're giving you 70. So in such an instant, you are free to move. But this person has made sure that you resign in your previous position. And that is the mistake most of job seekers will make. We resign on our current position without signing the contract for the next employer. So make sure you sign the contract before you tender in your resignation. Once you find that the terms of this position, the employment have changed from the previous discussion, you can be able to move. That is a reason you can give to the potential employer when going for an interview that initially I've joined this organization. We had this discussion at the start, but when I joined, the terms changed, so it necessitates my leaving this organization. So there are several reasons you can leave an organization. Maybe you can talk about it having been a short-term contract where you are just there for maternity cover, especially if it's a short period and you don't have a specific reason that you can give the potential employer. And giving a negative information about the other employer, previous employer, will also be an issue. So you need to think about some of the reasons that can make you leave on short term. Maybe a maternity cover, and maybe issues with terms of employment and others.
Okay. Sawa, thank you so much for that. And maybe just to add on to what you said, people, it's okay to want to leave an organization as soon as you go in, based on just how the environment is, the situation is, but as how Jay has said, how you package that information is what matters. Then there's another question. Is it a red flag when you're offered a job without the interview stage? So people, please type in your questions in the chat so that we can be able to classify them, so that we can lump them and they're answered as a whole. So Jay, back to you. Is it a red flag when you're offered a job without the interviewing aspect?
It's a red flag. Mm-hmm. Because you have to go through the interview so that you can be able to understand the position well and show these potential employers well that you understand the position. And then from there, you can be able to proceed now and discuss terms. I've seen people apply for scam jobs. I think what Joan has asked about, I've seen people, their Masai Mara Lodge or something. These guys create even a website. And you apply, they advertise for positions, you apply for this position, they send you a contract even before you go for the interview. That is a red flag.
All right. So basically what Jay, you're telling us is to employ the speed, the intuition and the sound judgment aspect before we accept offers, before we even just accept. And we just being aware of how easily we are to be scammed as job seekers. So there's the question of, if the current company isn't paying salaries due to financial constraints, can you give this as a reason for wanting to leave that company? Or is it unwise to disclose that?
I think for me, I think you can give that as a reason, because you are in that company to provide your services and then get paid for those services that you are providing. But if you're not getting paid for the services, it means that you are unable to pay your bills, you are unable to finance your life. And so it's okay to talk about it. And you can help there. For me, I feel it's very okay.
Yes, it is. Just depending on how you frame that question,
Yeah.
how you frame your answer and all that. Remember, bottom line, you do not want to look like you bad-mouthing or you're so bitter about your past employer. So you can disclose such aspects and it's perfectly understandable to do that. Then we have, it is common knowledge that most people who speaks fluently stand a high chance to be hired. How do you ace an interview if you're a stammerer, like Moses in the Bible?
No, but I know Norbert will always ask, will always want to pin me down. Now, job interviewers are people too, and once they understand that you are a stammerer, they'll give you an opportunity to explain yourself during the interview. So they'll listen clearly just to be able to understand that do you have an understanding of what the job is like, and do you have an understanding on, do you understand the role that you've gone be interviewed for? So if you understand the role and it's something that might not, you might miss out on the job if the job involves more speaking. For example, you are a stammerer and it's a customer service role, you might end up not getting the job. But if it's a back office job and you have the technical skills to be able to handle that, I'm sure back office like roles like maybe accounting, even the HR, they might be able to select for that, as long as you have the skills and qualifications for the same. But based on the role, if it's customer service where you need to be able to pick calls, you need to be able to transfer calls, you might not be able to get that position.
All right. So now, thank you so much. I think we've exhausted majority of the questions. So now let's get to the $1 million question. When we started the interview, the session, I asked you, if we were to go on an interview right now, how do you think you would perform? So now I want to give a spin-off question based on what Jay has taken us through. If you were to go for an interview right now on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you think you will perform? 1 being very poorly and 5 being excellently. So on a scale of 1 to 5, if you were to go for an interview right now, how do you think you will perform based on the nuggets and the insights that Jay has given us? Wow, people, we will ace these interviews. I'm seeing 4s, 3s, 5s, 4.5s, excellent. A strong 4.5, a 4. That's the spirit, yeah? Then a 4. So I think, Jay, a 10 out of 5. Owen, that is top confidence. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. A 4, 4, 4, 4, 5. 4.9 out of 5. Bring it on. Yes, that's the spirit. So if I'm to sum up what Jay has told us, one thing that I would want all of us to have as a takeaway is that you must be prepared for interviews. And you must treat each interview as if you're going for a new one. Never ever go with that casual, what do we call this, attitude that I can ace it. Always prepare for the next interviews. And there are some tips that Jay has given us. And maybe I would actually challenge you to just type in the chat, what has been your light bulb moment in some of the tips that Jay has given you? What is your main takeaway? So please type it on the chat. What is your main takeaway? What are you going to do differently? and make it very short. What are you going to do differently so that you can ensure that you're better prepared for your next interview? Jay has shared quite a number of nuggets. I personally have had the light bulb moments, the aha moments. What are your key takeaways? What is that thing that Jay has told you that you're going to do to better prepare you? And thank you so much, Winnie, whereby you said your main takeaway is you research on the company and always carry a notebook. That was quite profound. Thank you so much for Winnie. Any other person who'd want to share what their main takeaway point has been? And as you share, yes, practice on the different types of interviews, the thank you email, the be punctual, yes, because it will affect just your composure in the interview. Thanking the interviewers after the interview, thank you. Yes, I think majority of you didn't know, don't badmouth your current employer, even if they're not the best. Right questions asked to propagate your way forward, that is true. Do a research about the company, compose and prepare well, yes. And how to answer your gaps. So I sit on the other side interviewing candidates quite a lot. And the candidate that stands out the most to me is the one who exudes confidence, who knows what they are worth, who sells their values rather than their problems, and who shows interest to work in the company. And how do you show interest? Show that you've researched about the company, show that you've researched about the leadership in the company, and show your eagerness that you'd want to work in the company. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, allow us to wrap up our discussions, and we encourage you to go forward, prepare, and be confident, and tag your worth. Ask yourself this evening, how much are you worth? If you're asked, what is your salary expectation? What will you say? And yes, we are live on YouTube. For those who did not manage to join us on time, who've not managed to catch up on the conversation from the beginning to the end, don't worry, it is recorded and it is live on YouTube. So Esther, thank you so much for posting the link there. So remember to follow JCVs on LinkedIn and also all the socials. We will also type those details on the link. Also remember to follow Conversations with Esther Katiba. Remember to follow Esther Katiba and also myself, Anne Bahati, on LinkedIn for more discussions on just how to better prepare yourself in your career, how to better prepare you to thrive. Because one thing interesting, the three of us are actually all career guidance and coaches. So feel free to reach out. If you need your CV revamped, Jay is your person. If you need that interview coaching, speak to Jay, speak to Esther, speak to myself. We will definitely prepare you for your next big role. And above all, remember that yes, you can do it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end the session and to thank each one of you, the 100 on this call and the many, many more who are on YouTube. Thank you so much for following through, for being engageful. See you next Wednesday with Conversations with Esther. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Bahati. Thank you, Jay.